So thank you for joining me. My name's David Raphael, as you probably know. I run a business called Pronto Search, and this is Recruitment 101. So it's both how to recruit and how to be recruited. So thank you so much for coming again. I hope you are excited about learning a little bit about the world of recruitment. It's something that I'm quite passionate about. It's obviously I've got a bit of experience in it, and it's a skill that will prove useful for yourself, whether you are looking for work yourself or you are looking to hire someone in the future. So some really good information here, and feel free to take notes. Also, feel free to ask questions along the way. David, I believe the other David, will interrupt me, which is fine, and ask me the questions. I'm always happy to answer things on the fly, and it works better that way because things will pop up. So who am I? And it's always a little bit weird looking at your own photo on a presentation. But I'm an experienced recruiter, a business owner, and someone who likes helping other people. That's me in a nutshell professionally. I'll go through a little bit of my background just quickly. So I actually started off in sales. So my first role was with a company that is a small startup, gave me a very good introduction to the world of work and that kind of company as well. It was really dynamic, quite fun, fast-paced, and had a great team culture. After that, there we go. After that, I joined a recruitment firm called Robert Half. It's a global recruitment firm. Had a really good team culture, really good setup, interesting work in what I was doing in software development recruitment, and gave me a very good introduction to that world, and a very strong career growth pathway. I then started my own business, Pronto Search, in March of 2020, which was right before the pandemic, which was unfortunate timing. The reason I did that was because I wanted to be my own boss, basically. So started up my own business, and from that point, it's been a good journey, and it's been a lot of learning. So I specialize in sales recruitment now. I've got a very good understanding of how to source a candidate. I've got a strong background in screening and finding the right fit. And I've got a good knowledge of brand development as well, running my own business. So there's all relevant information there. So this is what to expect from this webinar. Basically, what I'm going to be going through is, well, just to go back a bit, when I planned for this webinar, I was planning to deliver it more for employers, business owners. But I realized that likely there's a lot of people that will be joining to learn on the other side, on the candidate side, how to be attractive to employers. So when I go through all these sections, what I'm going to do is I'm going to relate it to both sides. So I'll go through the business, or your business, recruiting for a particular role, then sourcing, screening, interviewing, offering contracts, starting an onboarding. And then I'll do a section specifically for candidates on what a good CV looks like and how to interview well. So a business, your business, any business really, before a business hires someone, they should really think about a few key different areas. And likewise, when you're looking for work, you should really look out for these things as well. So the brand and the positioning is a really crucial factor. I think it's the most important part of the growth of a business, because people say this, your brand is everything, right? People judge you based on how you position yourself in the market. So, if you don't have that strong brand presence and that awareness amongst the market, then people are less likely to engage with you. It similarly works on the other side as a candidate. If your presence on LinkedIn or on your CV doesn't look professional, or it doesn't look, it's not well thought out and it's not specialized, which I'll go through in a bit later, then people are less likely to engage with you. if you're looking for a business, you should really pay attention to this brand and positioning. It's a good indication of their vision and the trajectory of their business. So what can a business offer? Now, everyone can offer a salary, commission, career growth. And it's not to say that these aren't good things to talk about. They're not good topics. They definitely are good things. You just need to think about what else the company stands for. How does it treat employees? What's the culture like? What are the mission, the values, the vision? If you think about like Apple, for example, if you were to join Apple, it's not necessarily going to be about the salary that they pay you, because other companies will pay similar. It's more about the vision that you would join for, because you're going to be a part of, the next big thing. So that's really important to think about. What can you offer apart from the basic things? These two things alone, I could probably do a talk each in itself, but I'm not going to, obviously, in the sake of time. So is the business set up to hire someone? I know it sounds like a bit of a silly question, but if you're at the point where you decide to hire someone, you really need to think about these things like, are you financially secure? Can you pay someone's wages for a year? Will the growth of the business sustain the role? And can you offer enough support and coaching, training and mentoring, that kind of thing? If you're on the candidate side, the question is a difficult one to ask, but you can do this in ways that aren't too probing to kind of understand the business. A question you might ask might be, what are the long-term plans for the business? What are the challenges you're facing this year? And what are the growth predictions, and how do they match up? So there are ways that you can kind of get that information without being too probing and asking, hey, is your business stable? Is the role necessary? So again, really think about the question. Can this role be outsourced, or is there another way that you can solve this problem without hiring someone? I know it's a weird thing to say because this is a talk about recruitment, but it is vital to think about this. You don't want to hire someone and then find out 3 months down the track that you can't actually afford to keep them on. Vice versa, as a candidate, I suppose you want to know, is the business stable, like I said before, and will the role be around in the next 3 months or the next 3 years? You don't want to make a move when it's not, there's no long-term involved. So once you've decided, yes, 100% I want to hire someone, there's a few key things that you should do. A job description is essential. It should go through the intro to the company, intro to the role itself, or the responsibilities and duties, the key selection criteria, and the required skills or education. Likewise, if you're a candidate and a company doesn't have a JD, a job description, then it's probably a good indication that they're not going to be, a great employer, potentially. That's what I would think anyway. I see that David has raised his hand.
I do have a question about the responsibilities in job description. So I've worked as an engineer. I've been on both sides, reading job descriptions and actually writing job descriptions. And some of them were basically 3 pages of what your responsibilities should be and what skills you should bring. Is that reasonable? Does that make any sense? Because at the end, whenever I was in the job, nothing of that stuff mattered anymore, what was written in those job descriptions.
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends how complicated the role is. If it's a managerial or leadership role, there's going to be more things involved than just your day-to-day. So I feel like it is, or I think it is necessary for some roles, but you're right. I mean, it can happen that, companies will kind of cover all their bases by putting in a long job description with lots of responsibilities and key selection criteria, in the sake of being compliant with, various regulatory bodies. So that's potentially the reason why they did it, so that if they get audited, then they can show, hey, look, we've actually, we've thought out this role long and hard, and here's the JD. So that's a potential explanation. Although it's probably is better to keep it a bit more relevant and to the point. But yeah, good question.
Audited by who? Who is interested in?
Well, ASIC ASIC can audit you and ask for job descriptions.
Okay, thanks for that.
No worries. So yeah, the key selection criteria and the required skills in education. The next thing, once you've got a job description, is a skills matrix. And this is something that I use with my clients. So when you're ready to go, you've got the JD. It's a handy tool that helps you identify what you're looking for. So as you can see here, we've got the must-haves for a role and the desirables for a role, and then the weight or the importance of all of these things. When assessing a candidate, this is how you would format it. Put all the candidates in here and then match them up against the expectations. So this is a really good way to bring metrics into recruitment and to actually drive it using data, I suppose. It may be a handy exercise to do this as a candidate as well, to do a bit of a deep dive into your fundamental skills and in your kind of extra skills as well. So you can get a better understanding of where your speciality lies. And if you wanted to grab this spreadsheet, just connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share it with you. But yeah, Candidate Matrix is a really handy tool. So I'm going to go through sourcing. Now, this, again, is primarily aimed at employers, people wanting to hire people, but you can use this as a candidate, as an, when you're looking for jobs as well. So let's just go through the different methods. Job ads are a good way of finding what we call active talent. So, candidates who are actively applying for different roles, they're going to be looking at ads and submitting their applications there. It's not necessarily the best way to find, or the way to find the best people, because the best people are often going to be in jobs already, performing well, relatively happy, and they're what we call passive candidates. So ads will capture active candidates, but not necessarily the best way of finding people. Likewise, on the candidate side, if you're looking at ads, you can find some good companies there, but to really stand out to an employer, it's better to go through different avenues, like contacting them directly, networking, that kind of thing. And oftentimes, employers won't advertise the positions they've got open. So it's a good idea to network anyway. But we'll just go through ads quickly. Good ad copy is really crucial for hiring and attracting and hiring good talent. The headline has to be really attention grabbing and offering good value. This is an example of what I've done for a previous role, but it's honestly, looking at it, it's probably not the most exciting or interesting job ad, to be honest. There's other things that you can do. For example, putting the what's in it for you, putting that at the top, offering value before you kind of ask for things. But also these job ads should mirror the JD in a way that all the core responsibilities are there and plain to see. So yeah, there's three main avenues that I've used for ads, and they're Seek, LinkedIn, and Indeed. In order of how expensive they are, I'm not going to go through them all because it'll just take too much time. But they're the three main avenues. Now, headhunting. Headhunting is, this is the part of recruitment that actually becomes quite interesting, and it's the part that I like the most. You can actually apply this to being a candidate as well. So if I'm looking for a candidate, think of it in your perspective, you're looking for an employer, but it's essentially, it can work the same way. So primarily for this section, I will be talking about headhunting through LinkedIn, using LinkedIn Premium. But there are points that apply to your CV as well. So they're quite similar anyway. Your LinkedIn and your CV, they should be fairly similar. So what we're going to look for here, when we're looking for either talent or you're looking for a company, you're going to look at industry background. Does this company match your industry? Is it evident on your LinkedIn profile that you're in that industry? Is it in the headline? If you look at my headline, it says SaaS sales recruiter. It's pretty easy to identify what I do straight off the bat. So You know, this needs to be reflected in immediate detail, but it also should be, you know, expanded upon in your CV as well as in your profile. It is important to let people know very quickly and early on what you do and where you can add value. You know, recruiters are time poor. I'll say this probably a few times throughout the speech. So, you know, when you're thinking about it, you want to advertise yourself in the most accessible way possible. The level of experience matters as well. You know, where are you in your career? What position are you looking to move into? You know, if you're in a managerial level, it should be clear that you're a people leader and you're looking to continue this. Or likewise, if you're a junior, it should be clear that you need a bit of support and development. The other thing is prominent skills. So what is your niche? It's so important. It makes everyone's lives so much easier. And the reason for this is that you're positioning yourself for the best job that you can possibly get, and vice versa, for employers to contact you in particular. So what do you specialize in? Have a thought about that. Again, is it clear in your headline? You know, make it easy for people to figure out before they've even clicked on your profile who you are, where you are, and what you do. The company background is more targeted towards employers. So, you know, what types of companies has the candidate worked in before? Are they similar to your company? Would they fit in with the business? But likewise, when you're looking for work, you should look at employers and think, are they similar to what I've done or to what I want? And you can do this in a few different ways. So I'm going to go through Seek Talent Search. If I can get out of this, sorry. And we're going to do a bit of a search. I'll just show you how. Now, Sales Navigator, it's just started raining, so I hope doesn't there's not too much noise there. Sales Navigator is probably one of the best ways of finding leads. And the reason for that is that it's got so many different filters that you can add. And the other thing as well, just to keep in mind quickly, is that you can get a free trial of LinkedIn to use these services. So, you know, I would very much make use of it if you're looking for work. But even if not, I think it's $100 a month or something like that. You know, if you're really serious about finding work, then you could definitely use this. So I'll just go through, like I'm looking for someone that's in the sales space and has an education background. You know, I want them in Melbourne. You can also pick people that you're connected with already, or second degree, third degree, etc. The industry background, their school, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. The seniority level, you know, the years at their company, years of experience, titles that they've had either, you know, now or in the past, and those apply to every section. Company headcount, the company type, you know, all kinds of things. And if you're thinking about this from a candidate perspective, you can actually target companies and build lists. So I'll just show you quickly how you're going to build a list. Oops, trying to do this without. Okay. So you've done your search and you're looking now at the people that you're targeting. Think, oh, okay, Chloe looks like a good target for me. Click that, click some more people, etc., etc. And then you save them to a list. So go into your lists and then you've got a good list of people that you can contact. Now, this is a really, really good way of, first of all, of finding talent. You know, it's one that I rely on quite heavily to get in touch with people and build my network. But you should definitely think of using this as a candidate as well. I think it's a great way of doing it because, like I said before, there's so many Boolean search functions. You can search for a company that has under 10 people, for example, in the electronics space in, you know, Canberra, if you want to go work there. So it's a great way of doing it. I think personally though, and this kind of ties in, it's best to build out a network and kind of, build out a healthy network. So you definitely use those Boolean searches. Also do some, if you can't afford the LinkedIn Premium, then just do the searches on normal LinkedIn. You should be able to get somewhere anyway. And then connect with someone. I'll go through this in a little bit, but I'll just go through quickly why I think networking and referrals are the best way to recruit. So first of all, there's 3 reasons why I think it's the best way. Firstly, generally people are pre-vetted. So if you're networking, someone refers you to someone, you already kind of know that they're good on both sides as an employer and an employee. There's also a trust factor that's already there. So since it's through a mutual connection, the trust is already kind of been built. And number 3, it avoids all the kind of delays and stresses caused by, if you're an employer headhunting someone, or if you're a candidate going through job applications and all that stuff. I know how tiring and how emotional it can be looking for a job. So networking is definitely a way to kind of circumvent that. So what are we talking about when we say networking? I mean, to me, it means getting your name out there and connecting with as many people as possible. LinkedIn obviously is a really great place for doing this, because there's so many people on there. People are generally open to connecting if they don't know you. And it's super simple to strike up a conversation. My suggestion, if you're going to network with people on LinkedIn, is to send a personal message to them. I can't tell you the amount of people who just simply connect with me, and they have no relevance to my industry or what I do. I still connect with people anyway, don't worry. But it's better to send a personalized message. If I get a personal message, I'll always respond, and you never know what can come of that. So my personal recommendation is send a personal message. Hey, Greg, I noticed you're working at X company. I really like the stuff you do there. I was hoping to connect. They'll most likely get back to you, or at least that's the hope. If there's some kind of alignment there, and and they can see themselves working with you. It also shows that you've put genuine thought into that person, and it gets the relationship off to a really, really good start. Once you've got the connection, ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask the question, right? You're never going to get anywhere if you don't take that leap of faith. So it could be, hey, I'm looking for a job in this space. Do you know anyone? They might have a job themselves, but at the same time, they might know someone that's hiring. So don't be afraid to ask that question. It's one of the best ways that I build my network personally, is simply by asking for referrals. And people are generally happy to help people out as well. So don't feel like you're a burden, or like you're, trying to take value from someone. People genuinely want to help out. There's other things to think about when networking as well, like, meetup groups, masterclasses, professional networking organizations. If you're a graduate or a student, uni groups. But yeah, personally, networking has been such a vital skill in growing my business, and it's opened up so many doors. Yes, Priyanka.
So what happens if, say, for example, I want to reach out to someone at Tennis Australia, and that's the person that, say, who I want to work with? Is it not a bit rude to be like, send a nice message first and then be like, hey, by the way, I want to work with you or for you? How do you go about saying something like that?
Yeah, very, very good question. I would say don't be afraid to ask it again. My advice would be tactful in that way. You don't want to just straight out ask them, hey, do you have any jobs going? Because that won't go down well. You want to kind of give them a brief snapshot of who you are. I'm a professional with X amount of years in this space. I really like your organization, what you do. If you have friends there, maybe mention their names, or if you've heard good things about them, say that as well. And then ask them, would it be worth me sending my CV over to you just in case there are jobs available? Don't necessarily you kind of want to ask it in a tactful way. You might say, I know you're not hiring right now, or I don't know if you're hiring right now or not,
Yep.
but would it be worth me sending my CV to you? And, you know, I would say that most people will be receptive to it, or if not, they might pass you on to their HR. Or if they say, sorry, I can't help you out, you can ask who would be the right person to get in touch with then. Sometimes they're just too busy. They'll see the message and, you know, left you on red, so to speak. But I would say just follow up with them.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries. So that's generally the way to source through ads, headhunting on LinkedIn, networking, referrals, and likewise it can work the other way with yourselves as candidates. So here's how to screen an interview. This is probably I would say probably my strongest area. And it goes through a few different things. So initially, I'll always phone screen someone, and you've probably all been through a phone screen as well. I always just do a quick one just to make sure it's a good fit. I usually know beforehand generally, but you know, there's always things that come out over the phone that you can't tell in person. So it's good to have a quick 5-minute chat. Here's how you should structure the call and how most recruiters will generally structure the call. You know, a little bit of rapport building, discussing your experience a little bit, and then discussing what you're looking for. It's important to know this stuff thoroughly. You know, if the question comes up, you don't want to be stumped and kind of left there wondering, oh, what do I say? You really want to know your experience back to front and what you are looking for as well. What I look for when I'm speaking to someone is these 3 things. So primarily good communication. That is the most important thing. I can't overstate how important it is. Really, every single company you speak to is looking for someone that can communicate well. Whether you're a software engineer or a sales manager, communication is key. You won't be able to get anywhere if your communication isn't good. And by good communication, I mean active listening and asking the right questions. They're the 2 fundamental things that you should really have under your belt. I look for motivation and drive as well. So I want to know what people are motivated by and hear a bit of passion and drive in your voice. And a hiring manager will look for that as well. Again, businesses are looking for someone who's, you know, driven and self-motivated. It's super, super important because as costs get higher and the belt, excuse me, the belt gets a bit tighter, most businesses are looking for that kind of the go-getter that doesn't have to ask questions and can go do things on their own. May not be innate built into you, but as long as you come across as passionate and motivated and enthusiastic, it will go down quite well. I also look for the right fit. So, you know, is the person going to be a good fit for the business? Does the career outlook fit? Does their salary fit? Are they going to like the manager personality wise? Are they going to stay there? And that's down to a few different things like their career ambitions, where they're located, even if their travel time's too much, their flexibility, what they're looking for there, their salary. So I go through all these kind of qualifying questions to make sure that it's the right fit. If it's a good fit, I'll book in for a video interview. So interviewing is a skill in its own, obviously. What I do is I send a JD through to the candidate beforehand, always to prepare them so they know what the role's about. And then I structure, this is what I do when I get on the video call, is I set out a very clear structure. So obviously first, you know, I do a bit of, hey, how's it going? You know, isn't the weather today awful? Blah, blah, blah. Build some kind of connection with the candidate. And that's what you should be doing as well as a candidate with your employer, is building a bit of connection quickly, so that you both feel comfortable having this kind of conversation. I then lay out the format of the interview, the structure. So I'll say this. First, I want to, get to know yourself a little bit better, talk about your background and your experience in terms of a few different roles, particularly at this role and this role. Then I'd really like to know your personal qualities, your strengths and your motivations. But I really also want to know what you're looking for, because recruitment works like a two-way street, right? It can't work just for the business. It has to also work for yourself. Then we'll talk about the role itself, and I'll allow you to ask some questions, and we'll go back and forth a little bit. So that's how I would lay out an interview, and how most recruiters that I know generally lay out interviews. Each recruiter will have their, different questions they like to ask. For example, my question I like to ask is, what kind of challenge did you face in that role? But every recruiter has different questions, and every company will have different ways of kind of getting the information, I suppose. So what you want to do, or what I do rather, is when I'm asking people about their role and their responsibilities, I ask them that primarily, what's your day-to-day like, and what things are you required to do in the role? I get them to talk about the team and the business as well at large, so I can get an understanding of where they sit within it. And then, like I said, talk about the challenges faced. So, like I mentioned before, it's good to have a really good knowledge of your own background, the team you're a part of, the business, and be able to kind of explain that quite well. I also ask questions, like I said before, about strengths and motivations, and then ask them qualifying questions about what they're looking for. So what type of company are you looking for? What role? What salary are you looking for? Whereabouts do you live? What's your notice period? Any other requirements or anything else you want to talk about? Just so I can screen properly and make sure that there's no stone left unturned. So that's the reason those questions are asked. Then you're on to the role itself and a bit of question and answer. So that's self-explanatory. So this is really what I look for. Again, clear communication, passion, enthusiasm, and drive, and fit for the business. So if you've got those things in mind, you should do pretty well in an interview. I would say probably enthusiasm is probably one of the biggest ones. If I don't feel like you're excited by this role or the company, I don't think it's going to be a great fit, because if you're not excited, why would you want to work there? Yeah. Anyway, that's really what I look for. So, what you're looking for may differ for you. So just make sure you come in with a clear idea of what you're looking for as well. Like I said before, it's a two-way street. You're interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. There are assessments involved in some roles as well, like paid tests, like a technical test and a psychometric test. We don't really need to go into depth about these, or role plays, or the internal assessments that employers do. But if you are an employer and you're looking to hire someone, these can be really, really handy tools, particularly the psychometric one and the technical one if it's a technical role. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to go into depth about these. So if you've decided you want to hire someone, congratulations. You then should issue them a contract. I would, if you're an employer, definitely seek legal consultation. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any background in law, so I won't be able to give you advice there. But there are some good guides on Fair Work Australia and a few other places. So that's what I would recommend. Offering someone is pretty simple. The thing that you have to worry about, I suppose, if you're offering someone a role, is counter offers, or a counter offer is from their current employer. They'll offer them, you've resigned from your current employer. Your employer asks you, hey, we can actually pay you this much more. Would that keep you here? Yes or no? And then there's offers from other companies as well. So if a candidate is interviewing at multiple companies, then you want to make sure you've got that covered off. Mr. David Hauser.
That's probably a cultural question. when I was still in Germany, the rule was a person that signed already with another company, even if you match the salary or you beat the salary that they're getting, they're gone already anyway within the next 6 months. Does that apply in Australian culture too?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's a known statistic that I don't know exactly the statistic, but a very high number of people that accept counter offers from their current company end up leaving within 6 months. Yeah, you're 100% on the money there. Yeah, so think about that yourself as well. If you're leaving a job, your employer offers you a little bit more money. Really think about, what are the reasons that you're leaving? Is it because of the money, or is it because of other things? And think about that statistic. Are you likely to stay around at that company, or are you likely just going to quit anyway? Yeah, interesting topic. So starting and onboarding someone is a really crucial part of an employee's success. I'm not an HR expert, so it might sound weird, but recruitment is a part of HR. It's a fundamental part of HR, but I'm not well versed in the rest of HR, and onboarding is a part of that. So I would advise, if you are looking at onboarding someone, to get someone with HR expertise. You can get consultants for this. But from my experience, the more comprehensive and in-depth the onboarding experience, the better it is for the employee and the employer, and the better it's worked out in the long term. So this is onto a very relevant section for people today. How to appear, attractive as a candidate, and how to interview well. So I'm going to go through what a good CV looks like. I'll also show you my CV, which I actually just updated the other day. It should be short and simple. So that's the first thing. Very easy to understand, easy to digest. So these two things, they're the most important ones, and they're the reason that I put them first. A long-winded CV, one that's 6 pages, 7 pages, I can't possibly have time to read all those CVs and do it in depth. Generally, recruiters are quite time poor, and HR people are quite time poor. So we're trying to easily understand as quickly as possible, where your speciality lies and where your niche skills lie. The other thing as well, it needs to be well formatted, and it needs to be, like I said, easy to identify the key skills. If it's not like that, it will easily get overlooked simply because you haven't formatted it properly. You're not thinking about the employer. When you write a personal profile, you want to go through, and I'll show you my example of this, a good explanation of who you are, where you're at in your career, what your kind of key skills or your value add is, and what you're looking for going forward. So those are some important bits to note so that the employer knows in a snapshot. Then going on to talking about your experience, you want to outline the responsibility. Well, first of all, I forgot to include a point here. You want to explain about the business first of all. Generally, an outline of what it's about, the background. Then you want to list your responsibilities, and then you want to state your achievements. This is an important one that I don't think enough candidates do. To show people statistics and metrics on your achievements, you're immediately showing what kind of benefit you would be for the next employer. So this might be something like manage the team, let's say improve the team's process, the sales process, to get their conversion rates from 10% to 15% in 1 quarter. That's a very time-driven, metric-driven kind of statement that shows your value, or your value and what you're able to provide for the business. Like I said, it's something that I don't see enough candidates doing, and it will kind of set you apart a fair bit. The other thing you would look at doing is injecting keywords into your CV. And the reason for this is that it'll come up on like Seek Talent Search, for example. When an employer posts an ad, they get credits to access Seek's database, and that's of all the people that have ever used Seek. So if you've got keywords in your CV, like manager, sales manager, for example, you'll come up more easily. You don't want to, drop it in everywhere, but you want to make sure that it's in enough spots to identify it. So I'm going to show you my CV. If I can, yep. So I hope you can all see this. But yes, it has my personal profile, who I am, what I do, and my passion and my drive right here. My contacts, where I'm at in where I'm at in my career, and then my kind of skills, I suppose, or what I've done. So this is, some keywords to get people interested. One thing I should note, I've got my photo up here. You don't have to have your photo in there. Some people, there's differing opinions about this. Some people think it's great. It's a great thing to do. Some people don't care at all. And some people think it's cheesy. Personally, I like when people have their photo in there because I kind of get a better understanding of who they are. And also depending on their communication, I can almost get a picture for what this person is like before I speak to them. So my skills, top skills listed first. I probably should put recruitment in there, to be honest, but it's pretty obvious from my experience and what I do. Again, I should have put actually in here what Freedom Property Investors actually does, and then put in the responsibilities. So my mistake on that one. I've done that for my own business here. But yes, you want to have the responsibilities, what you were doing in a snapshot, and then your achievements. So some kind of, some tangible, measurable things. David.
Do you want to have all the current and latest and the one latest position on the first page?
Yes, absolutely. Because I want to know where you're at the moment, like what your current career looks like. I think that's the most relevant. But what you could do, if you think you've spent 7 years at a company and that's really honed your skills, put it in your personal profile. I spent 7 years working at XYZ and developed a really good understanding of this particular space. I now work here and this is what I'm looking to do. Does that make sense?
Cool.
Yeah. So this is going through, honestly speaking and looking at it, it's probably too long-winded, but it's 2 pages. So I think 2 pages is a really good sweet spot. Anything longer, it kind of gets a bit cumbersome to digest it all, I suppose. So I would keep it to 2 pages if you can. If you're a very specialized professional, then you might want to extend it. But yeah, generally you want to keep it. The shorter, the better.
What do I do if I have too many different experiences that I can't fit it onto 2 pages and it does not look, and without looking like shit?
Yes, good question. So you want to have probably the first 2 or 3 experiences listed out as they are here. And then the other ones, you just want to have just the name of the company, your title, and the time, and then list them. Because obviously the further back you go, the less relevant it gets. So that's what I would do. Yeah.
That's always the case? The further back, the less relevant?
Personally, I think so. Because if you haven't used a certain tool or a certain software or something, for example, in more than 5 years, it becomes outdated. Could be different in different industries. But it also, it's your career path, right? If you've been a manager for the last 5 years, 10 years, your hands-on experience is going to be more rusty. So I would say the more back you go, the further back you go, the less relevant it gets. But if, like I said, if there's a really relevant bit, you could extend that one job profile a little bit more. Pranka.
Your education is on the second page. I've previously been told to put education on the first.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I suppose mine is more targeted because I'm a recruiter and a sales person, essentially. Education is as important. If it is super important, you would want to have it on the first page. Generally, though, for me anyway, I look at it as a bit of an afterthought unless it's fundamental to the role. Like if you're a lawyer, example, and you need to have a law degree, or if you're a financial advisor and you need to have a certificate of financial advice, it's necessary to the role, then you probably want to put it on the first page. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Karen.
Oh, hi, David.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for your seminar. I was
No
just
worries.
as an employer, I'm just wondering what the etiquette is for the time between receiving and responding to an application, because I know myself when I have applied for something and then, you know, some recruiters will just go through the algorithm and then you immediately get rejected. That can actually fall not so well, not so good for your ego.
Yeah.
Whereas if you sort of wait a little while, it feels like they've actually looked at it. So I'm in the process of interviewing at the moment, and I sort of tried to leave a bit of time between sort of responding. Is that, or is there a general sort of practice?
There's no one size fits all approach. It's a good question, by the way. I would say, giving you a bit of transparency, what I would do is if I have, let's say I've got a CCAT up and I've got lots of applications in, I'll be able to get a snapshot of who this person is and what they do. If they're really a great fit, I'll call them as soon as I see it. If they're not, I'll probably wait until I've done my first round interviews with the first shortlist, and then send them an email saying, thanks for your application. I decided not to proceed with yours because of X reason. A lot of rejection emails just have a blanket response. Your application was unsuccessful. We'll keep your details on our database for next time. I think that's not enough, to be honest. If you really want to come off as a good employer and send out a good message to the community, then you want to send them a message saying, we were looking for a type of candidate that had X, Y, Z in particular. And I believe this is the reason that you were unsuccessful for this role. It is hard when you've got, hundreds of people applying, but the better you're able to give people a reason why they weren't successful, the better they will see your company in a good light. But on the time frame, I'd say once you're done with the first round interviews, send out the email to the people that weren't successful.
Yeah. So you agree that sort of the immediate rejection does feel a little abrupt, do you think?
Yeah, it does. And it kind of gives off the impression that you're right, like it's gone through an algorithm or whatever it might be, or they just haven't thoroughly considered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say the immediate rejection is not a great look.
Yeah. And also, sorry to take up your time, but in LinkedIn, there are those automated responses, unfortunately, blah, blah, blah. So you think that we should just tailor it a little bit more? It takes a long time, though, to do it individually.
Yeah. You don't necessarily have to tailor it individually. You could give a blanket response, but just say in the response, we were looking for, in particular, these types of qualities and this experience, or these many years of experience, and someone who had this particular skill. Does that make sense? Like, am I explaining that well?
And one more quick question. Is it a little odd to ask for a video intro, just because a lot of people for our particular position, we needed really good, clear English, and even though they have very good, experience in the areas that we're looking for. I just needed to hear their English, but I couldn't call everyone, you know.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea? It's not common, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not uncommon. It's not entirely uncommon either. I've done video responses for interviews myself. It's a bit of a new emerging trend, like the use of video. And I think that's fine. If you're sending them a message, hey, I would love to have a chat with you. Are you able to send me a quick video intro first of yourself, and then I'll give you a call? I think that's fine to ask that. I've never done that myself with candidates, and see how you go. It might be the case that some just don't respond, but then it also gives an indication, you know, if they do send back a video, are they motivated by your company and your role, and are they proactive? So it's probably a good way of I guess, yeah, of doing it, of actually having a funnel in there. Yeah, good point, Karen.
Good, thanks, David.
No worries. The final thing I'm going to go through, and let me just, I'm just trying to get to my other tab. Here we go. Sorry. I'm going to go through how to interview as a candidate this is. So, you know, interviewing in itself is a skill, and like with any other skill, it's like a muscle. You've got to do it. You've got to practice it. So for all of these things, I just recommend, you know, either doing it in a mirror yourself, or doing it with a close friend or a partner or whatever it might be, and they can give you a bit of feedback. So one thing I would say on an interview beforehand, do your research. It is super important to do it. You want to read through the JD really thoroughly and understand the role in depth. You want to know the business in depth, go through their LinkedIn, their website, understand their people, understand what they do. The better that you can come into an interview prepared and motivated and knowing a lot about the company, the more well presented you will come off to the client or the employer. Sorry. Make sure you're on time and that you're presented well. This goes without saying, but yeah, if someone's late to my interview and they're not presented well, they definitely, I would definitely mark them down a little bit. I think it's super important. Building rapport is obviously like a really, really important part as well. Like I said before, it makes everyone feel comfortable. Honestly, this is a skill in itself, building rapport, but the more you're able to do this, like I said, with partners or friends or whatever it might be, it's a crucial part of the process. So I would suggest, you know, getting comfortable with building rapport with strangers, with people that you don't know. And it can be anything. It could be, you know, how's your day going? How about that weather? How about, you know, enjoying working from home? Whatever it is, small chit chat just to make people feel comfortable. So active listening is probably the most important skill in most roles, to be honest, and definitely in an interview. You want to really understand, like tune into what the interviewer is asking and really understand the core of the question. And if you don't understand, ask them to clarify the question. It's a great tactic. It shows that you're emotionally aware, that you're diligent, and that you're paying attention, like I said. So don't be afraid to ask after someone's asked you a question. Sorry, I don't actually understand. Can you just clarify that a bit? Yeah, really good tactic. When you're answering a question, answer it thoroughly and keep on the point. That's what I would say. Don't go off track and talk about something else. It's very evident if you do, and it doesn't go well. So make sure, again, you understand the question and that you're staying on track to answer it. If you feel like you're going off track, just say, sorry, let me just reframe that and get back to the point of the question. Or if you forget it, you can ask, could you just clarify the question again for me? Another really good thing to do after you give your answer is to ask the interviewer, would you like me to elaborate on that? That is such a good question to ask. Things like, does that make sense? Would you like me to explain that a little bit more? Or, you know, was that answer clear? Do you understand? this will give you a lot of points in the interview. Firstly, because it shows that you've got high EQ, you're very aware. And secondly, it's because if the interviewer was looking for a different topic, that you've then opened up the floor, and they can say, actually, yes, I was looking to find out, what's your experience like in management, for example. So that's a really, really key point, is to ask a question after you've finished your explanation. Does that make sense? Or would you like me to elaborate? The star response. So this is when you've been asked questions like, tell me about a time you had a conflict with a coworker, for example. You can look up this star response. I'm sure you probably know it already, but it's a really, really good way of answering questions. I really like when people do it myself. The next thing I would say, after all this and you've got to the end of the interview, you want to ask smart questions. So ask the interviewer about the business, the aims, the challenges, the direction, the culture and the values of the business, the team, the requirements of the role. Basically, the more you ask, the better. And this ties into the first point, the research. The better your questions are. If you say, hey, I saw that you had this news article posted, or I looked up on your LinkedIn and this and blah, blah, blah. What's your thoughts about that? Those smart questions will really put you above other candidates, because it shows that you're interested in them as an employer rather than just a job. So yeah, I would say that's a key one. And the last one is to ask about the next steps. Always ask at the end, so what are the next steps? This puts in the employer's mind, is a little bit of a trick. It puts in the employer's mind that they're already going to tell you about the next step. So you're already in the next part of the process, essentially. So yes, that's a key question to ask as well. So that is how to interview well. It's a topic in itself, and I could honestly do a talk just on this for more than an hour. But the one thing I would, I probably will. I'd say the one thing is enthusiasm. Like, the more that you're interested and passionate and into the role that's being offered, the better you will come off to the employer, and it will do so well. So to show that kind of enthusiasm and and interest in the role, it will go a long way. So that's pretty much it. I know we went through a lot of stuff, definitely, and I know my voice is kind of giving out a little bit, but I hope you all enjoyed learning a bit about recruitment and how it works, and I hope it brought you a little bit of value, either if you're like on the employer side like Karen is, or like Priyanka is on the other side, looking for work. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Is there any questions that people had, just to finish off?
Your CV, your resume, the points that you had looked like really brief. How long did it take you to make it so comprehensive?
Sorry, the points looked really brief.
Yeah, they're very well written and comprehensive. So how much time did you actually invest to get it so precise?
Yeah, good question. I don't think I spent too long on it, to be honest, but only because I look through so many CVs that, if I'm looking at my own one, I know how to do it and what to look for. I
feel like mine's a fairy tale.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a good point, Priyanka. I think, like I said, when I was talking about CVs, the short and sweet is so much better. The easier it is to get a snapshot of who you are and what you do, the better it will do amongst employers. So try to keep it down to like 2 pages. All your points very succinct and to the point.
Are you offering services to optimize CVs for your clients?
I will give you advice. I won't actually do it for you, but I'll give you some pointers.
Are there copy editors for CVs out there?
There are editors that will charge you money to do it. I've heard some crazy fees being charged, like hundreds of dollars to do them. That's ridiculous if you ask me. It should be a skill that you can hone in yourself. But there are professional resume editors out there if you want. I don't think it's worth it.
Cool, thank you.
No worries.
And just from an employer's perspective, short and sweet's really good. And when people try to fluff out their experience, really don't like that. Like when they don't really have the experience, but try to blow it up as though they have.
Yeah.
You can see through that straight away.
100%. I was going to say that you can see through it straight away. Yeah, short and sweet works.
Thanks so much.
Cool. No worries. No, my pleasure. I hope everyone got a little bit of value out of it. And yeah, like David linked in the chat, like feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I always like to build my network. So thanks very much for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thanks, David.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks, Priyanka.